Hi everybody, so we're just going to give it just a few more moments so some folks can join us before we get started today. All right folks, I want to thank you today for joining us for another Zoo to You here at Franklin Park Zoo. Today is a very special day. It's Owl Awareness Day. So we're going to introduce you to one of our Eastern Screech Owls, Widget, today. My name is Amy. I'm one of the Animal Ambassador Specialists here at the zoo. And with us today, we also have Amanda, who's behind the camera. She'll be reading off any questions or answers that you guys send in. So feel free to put those into the chat, and she will read those off for you. Now, I mentioned before, right here with me, I have Widget. He's our Eastern Screech Owl. He is one of our animal ambassadors here at the zoo, which means we can bring him out for programs. And he acts as an ambassador for his species, so people can learn a little bit more about him, see him up close. And he helps us teach a lot of people about the different birds. Now, taking a look at him, you might think he is a baby owl. He's actually full grown, believe it or not. This is as big as Eastern Screech Owls get. The males are a little bit smaller than the females, so females will be a little bit bigger than this. But they're a very small owl. They're not big at all. You might be wondering where you can find these guys living. So they actually have a very huge range of areas where you can find them living. So pretty much the entire eastern half of the United States, southern parts of Canada, and northeastern parts of Mexico, you can find these guys living. So they're kind of all over the place. And the habitats these guys really like are forested areas. So anywhere there's lots of trees and some open fields for them to hunt. You can also find them living in suburban areas as well. Really, most important thing for them in habitats is to have those hunting spaces and for them to have some kind of little nesting cavity where they can rest during the day. They are a nocturnal species, so that means they're active at night. So usually these guys don't come out till after dusk, so even though they might be in your backyard, you might not even know it because they are very hard to see at nighttime when our vision isn't so great. The best way you can kind of tell if these guys are in your area, though, is to listen for them. They are called Screech Owls, but of their vocalizations, they actually don't really have a screeching cry. It's more of trills and whinnies that they make. So the name is a little misleading there. But it is a pretty distinctive call, so if you're ever curious, you can go online and look up some bird calls, and next time you go out at night, you can take a listen. And they do like to nest in tree cavities. So another thing you can look for is if you go out and look under trees for owl pellets, they eat different mice and things, so they'll regurgitate up those fur and bones, which their bodies can't break down, and they'll throw it down. It'll wind up at the bottom of the tree, so you can go take a look there and see. Go out at night and listen, and then during the day you can take a look for owl pellets, and maybe you'll find out you'll have one in your area. So I did mention that these guys like to hunt in meadows. So are there any guesses for what kind of prey you guys think these guys might like to eat? Give you a moment to put some answers in. All right, do we have any guesses?
Not at the moment yet. We did have a few questions though.
Yeah.
Martha wanted to know what Widget eats at Franklin Park.
So here at Franklin Park, he does eat every day, so he mostly gets horse meat, but on a couple days of the week, he gets mice as well.
And Jessica wanted to know, how old is Widget?
Widget is 8 years old. So in the wild, they live to be 8 to 10 years old. In human care, they can live as long as 13, so Widget here is a pretty old man. All right, so I told you what they eat here at the zoo. So out in the wild, they would be eating mice and other small mammals like shrew and voles, but they'll also eat small songbirds or bats as well. And they also really like larger insects as well. So these guys are small owls that like to go for those smaller prey items that they can easily capture and eat. And then I mentioned, so another part of that they are nocturnal and nesting in those cavities. They also use those cavities when they are laying their eggs. These guys aren't nest builders, so they kind of really like all those little nooks and crannies and tree hollows that they can find that might be made by a woodpecker, or in a more suburban area might be tucked behind a little window somewhere, anywhere they can find a nice little quiet, dark space for them to feel safe. So they are monogamous, which means that the males and females stay together and they help raise their nest and broods together. So the females will sit and incubate the eggs, and they'll usually lay between 3 and 7 eggs. And the males, while the females are sitting on those eggs, will go out and collect food and bring it back home for the female while she's keeping those eggs nice and toasty. And then I've talked a little bit about the prey that these guys eat. They are birds of prey. So does anybody, as you're watching, taking a look at Widget, notice any cool features that you think might be great for birds of prey? It does have some in common with hawks and eagles, but he does have a couple that are a little bit more specific to owls that are really helpful for him. Any guesses? Let me try and turn him a little bit. I don't want to move him too much, so you can get a look.
Martha said claws.
Yep, so they do have these really nice, strong, he's kind of holding onto the glove right now, so you can't really see them, but they have very strong feet and those strong talons, which they can use to help grasp their prey when they're hunting. So as he was hunting, he would hang out up in a tree and kind of wait till he saw something and then swoop down to grab it. He would use those strong talons to help hold onto it.
Martha also said a hooked beak.
Yep, that hooked beak, you guys can get a good look at it. He's kind of got his mouth open a little bit there. So once he grabs that prey, he can use that beak to help tear into it if it's something bigger that he can't eat in one bite. So he does have a pretty good little bite on him. All right, so those are like his 2 weapons for capturing. Anybody notice anything that they think would be good for helping him find his prey or to sneak up on it? All right, so one of the cool things about owls, since they are night predators, is that they have their feathers are very special that help keep their flight silent, so they can sneak right up on any prey. So they have that darkness to their advantage as well. They can sneak right up on any mice or anything that are scurrying around.
Rachel actually wanted to know if do they have many predators?
So they do have a couple predators, so larger owls, snowy owls, or barred owls that are a lot bigger than these little guys can be a pretty big threat to them. But they would also need to watch out for raccoons, minks, and other predators that they would need to keep an eye out for.
Martha also mentioned that the color of the feathers help them blend in too.
Yeah, so something that's really cool about screech owls are their 2 different color morphs. So Widget right here is a red morph, so that helps him blend into different tree types. The other morph is a gray type. If you tuned into one of our early Zoo to You videos, you might have gotten to see Owl Fredo, who is our ambassador owl that lives at Stone Zoo. That is a gray morph. So if you are curious to see what one of those look, you can look through the old Zoo to You videos and take a look at her. All right. Mentioned those feathers, the talons, his beak, and something else. He's got those really big eyes that give him really great night vision. He also, you can't really see this, but on the side of his head where his ears are, they're kind of hidden all under the feathers. Those little 2 tufts on his head actually aren't ears, they're just little feather tufts to help him communicate with other owls. But his ears are 2 little holes on the side of his head, and they're actually not at the same level, so it's higher on one side and lower on the other, which helps him better triangulate sound. So when he's hunting, he can figure out a lot more accurately where prey is. And you're kind of getting a look at him turn his head. Something that you hear a lot about owls are that they can turn their head really wide all the way around. That's not completely true. They can turn their heads really far. They can't turn it a full 360 degrees. They can turn it 270 degrees. That would be like us trying to turn your head to look over the opposite shoulder. So he would still be able to get a good look all the way around, just Not by moving his body. All he'd have to do is turn his head in the two different directions.
Scarlett wants to know how big they can get.
So this is actually as big as he gets. So this is a full-sized owl.
And then she just wants to know again how old he is.
He is 8 years old.
And how long can they live for?
They would live to be about 8 to 10 in the wild and up to 13 years in human care.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any other questions they have about Widget?
All right.
Now, can you find these birds in Massachusetts?
Yes, you can. So you can find these guys living kind of roughly anywhere east of the Rocky Mountains, all over the eastern half of the United States.
And Martha wants to know, does he know his keepers?
I wouldn't say he knows us too well, but he kind of keeps his eye on anybody that walks in. So he is pretty curious. He usually pays attention to anybody that walks by.
Scarlett wants to know how long we have had him at the zoo.
I believe we've had Widget for the 8 years that he's been here. We're not sure exactly how old he is. He is a bird that was rescued from the wild from a wildlife rehab center. He does have a foot injury, so he wasn't able to be released back into the wild. So he's been working with us as an animal ambassador since we've gotten him.
Okay, so
All right.
I think we're good to wrap up, Amy.
All right, let me give one more quick thing on how you guys can help. I mentioned these are birds that are right in our backyard, so there are a couple easy ways you can help these guys if you want to. One of the easiest things that you can do is if you ever have any litter or anything, you want to just hold on to it till you can properly dispose of it in good locations. Sometimes if these guys find food or anything that's thrown away on the side of the road, one of the biggest dangers to these guys is if they go down onto the road to check out where that food is, they can easily get hit by a car because they're out at night when it's really dark and it's hard for us to notice them, which is how a lot of birds can get hurt. You can also help by putting up nest boxes if you live in kind of a more suburban area without a lot of trees. You can give them a nice place to hang out. They're great to have in our area because they help keep all those like pesky little mice that we don't like away. So they're really great to have in your area. Okay, Amanda, do we have any questions?
Martha wants to know if Screech Owls live outside 24/7.
They do. Here at the zoo, Widget does live inside where we have a nice temperature going in the building at all times. But other than their little tree hollows where they like to hang out, they're outside 24/7 unless they find somewhere to kind of hang out if they want to be out of the rain or other weather.
And I think that is all of our questions, Amy.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Make sure you tune in for our next Zoo to You. Have a great day.